Welcome to the More Than Fitness podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming at you live, me and Jared Hamilton, from the backyard of my parents' house in Ashland, Kentucky. Jared came down for the day, and now we're sitting outside in my backyard in the gazebo. The birds are chirping. You might hear them. It's a beautiful night. It's probably, maybe in the 60s right now?
It is. It's like, I don't know if I could make it any better.
It's magical.
It's almost like, to get really corny,
Let's hear it.
This reminds me of like the scene in Aladdin when the carpet comes up. That's the kind of night this is.
It's majestic.
Am I wrong?
Listen, this is what we were talking about right before this, and what I was very adamant about making happen before this podcast and before any podcast. You have to set the tone. You have to set the mood for the best experience possible. And
Experience is everything.
And I think that's what we've been doing. Jared is got some cigars here. This is the first time I've ever smoked a cigar in my entire life. So those of you on the video podcast, you can see us. You can see me poorly doing this. Hold on.
I believe in him. It's all right. You're right.
Fill in the dead air for me.
See, we're breaking Matt's cigar virginity tonight. We're taking it. So Matt's never had a cigar before. I quite enjoy cigars.
Yeah.
So, but I'm making sure he don't get sick. Nothing bad's gonna happen.
If I throw up on the podcast, that'd be interesting. That'd be great content.
If you threw up from like a quarter of a cigar, we're gonna have issues.
No, we're good. We're good. Did you enjoy dinner?
I did enjoy dinner. His Matt's mother is amazing in the kitchen. So.
Listen. We had to. I told my mom. I was like, "Look, Jared's gonna come over. So like we gotta make him something good." And of course, she whipped out basically the Thanksgiving dinner.
Like I come in the house. Like I get here, I roll up. We come in the house. Instantly, the house smells like my grandma's house on Christmas and Thanksgiving morning.
Yes.
And then like I see some stuff in the works. Right, like stuff's in the oven.
Stuff in the crock pot. And I'm like, oh, this is dope. And then like. They start setting the table, and his mom and dad make like 18 trips from the kitchen to the dining room, and I'm like, "Holy fuck!" we had some roast, we had some sweet potato casserole, we had some
broccoli
casserole, we had some rolls, we had some mac and cheese,
some cake,
we had some yellow cake with fudge frosting.
It's good shit.
Yeah, man. Well, it's just like whenever you come here, whenever I talk about experiences, is a good full circle. Like. Part of hospitality, like the entire trip has to be experienced, right? So like whenever you first came, then I went and I showed you around. We went to different places. We went by my high school. We went and saw my dad at his auto body shop. And then I took him around the park and where my mom works and just showed him the whole city.
Matt is a fantastic host. In case anyone wants to DM Matt and say, "Hey, when's it my turn?"
Listen, but that's what I'm getting. The reason why I want to be a fantastic host is because like I want to make the experience the best possible. Yep. For both of us. Yeah. And so that's why we've got all of the vices here. We've got some bourbon, so we've got the alcohol. You've got a mixed bourbon drink. We've got some Diet Coke, so we got the caffeine in. We've got some water, hydration. Of course. So for the OGs out there, you guys know this is the trifecta. You've got to have all different types of drinks that work synergistically together. Right, you've got the alcohol. That's more of the depressant, gets you loosey goosey and gets all the walls down. You've got the caffeine from the Diet Coke that is a stimulant, gets you up and going, and the water is to make sure we stay hydrated and don't get too drunk off our asses.
And then
on
the cigar
podcast.
Makes you feel sophisticated as fuck.
And then we got nicotine from the cigar. I just realized. Oh man, we're killing it.
And then the Aladdin vibed evening. No humidity, probably 65. Birds in the background.
Man, listen. God, it's
fucking
David,
amazing.
I don't want you to take any of these sounds out in the background because I know you're going to want to maybe edit this or something. But I want to keep all these in here. I love it. I'm feeling good, and I'm so happy that you were able to come through. We had been talking about doing this for a long time, and this is the first time I've ever had like an internet friend come here to my house because with us, you have kind of like normal friends, right? Who are people maybe you grew up with or people that are local. That have nothing to do with the online coaching space or anything like that. And then we have our online friends, and I met Jared completely online, and then through the magic of social media and high quality friendships, then here we are.
Because this is only our third interaction in person together, right? The other hope everybody can hear that. Do you hear that?
Oh, the bird?
Yeah, that was a loud one.
Yeah, that was a loud
your
one.
cigar just died.
I think it did.
It's all right. I can relight it.
It's all good. Yeah. So we'll do it in dead air. Yeah, you got it.
So it's cool though because we literally, this is only our third time ever meeting. The first two times were when Matt was living in New York with our other internet friends, Rico and Ryan.
Shout out.
That's right. Shout out. Shameless plug.
Yes. And Alex. Shout out
Alex
as well.
And Alex. So yeah.
Yeah. No, it's been good because like you mentioned earlier, I think that it is always interesting whenever you are friends with people online and then you want to meet up with them in person. And sometimes they can just be more of like a caricature of who they are or a different type of personality, or maybe they're just not exactly who you thought they were. And I think I can say with full confidence that Jared is absolutely who he is.
Well, I appreciate that. Well,
yeah.
we were talking about this earlier when we were getting some just computer work done in the house, like answering emails and stuff. But we were talking about that, how one of the worst things is when there's someone that you either look up to or like an acquaintance online or like anybody for that matter, when they're not who you think they are.
Right.
Like I think everyone, like, let's say looks at someone like The Rock and it's like, we all just hope he's that person that we think he is. One of my biggest fears personally is, it's why I try to be as real and true and authentic as possible online, is because one of my biggest fears is someone like connecting with me, loving who I am online, and then meeting me in real life. And if they're like, oh, that is not who I thought he was. Because a lot of people do that, right? A lot of people like play a character online and then you get in real life and their ethics are less, their morals are less, or like they're just a different human.
Yeah.
And it's one of my biggest fears, which is why I almost don't care about the people that like some of my content offends or upsets or doesn't sit well with online, is because for when someone does meet me in person, I want to be literally, they'd then be able to go, wow, you're literally the exact person I thought.
Like we said, we over deliver, we overcompensate. Like if we meet somebody who would ever, say something to us on the street or something like that, or say that they listen to the podcast, or if you have a meetup or something like that, you're 100% going to, because we're just, we're in a position where like for that to even happen is insane. And so it's like for that person to even give a shit about what we say on a regular basis is intense.
Yeah.
I think it's very intense.
Very intense.
But I think I think part of that is like, because whenever you meet somebody that you look up to, or that you just, I'm not saying necessarily people looking up to us or something, but like you relate to, you want to be their friend or something, then you meet them in person and then they're different. It's kind of like that trust is lost, right? Like the person who they thought you were, right? Then it's just like, oh shit, my entire persona of who I thought you were isn't necessarily matching up with it.
To even come more full circle.
I'll bring it.
We're talking about experiences, right?
Yes.
And if it's whenever a bad experience happens, it's because how to word. It's because the experience was let down. The what you expected was let down. Right. If you're like, if I have this drink and I'm not looking and I expect it to be water and I drink it and it's carbonated, it's not that I necessarily had a preference, whether it be bourbon and Coke or water, but I had a bad experience because my expectation was something different. And the experience was bad.
Yes.
So kind of coming full circle with that, where if your expectations are not on point, then you're going to have a bad experience.
Yeah.
Right? Like, actually, to be honest, that's probably why even more my experience today has been so much better, because last thing I heard from you is you said, hey, we're just going to be chilling at the house, not doing anything crazy, whatever. We're just going to be hanging out. And I was like totally on board with that. But then I get here and the fucking house is gorgeous. You got pool and lights and shit. And then like your mom makes like an 18-course dinner and we come out here on a gorgeous night and it's like my expectations were exceeded. So therefore my experience is better. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I wanted. I wanted, again, just like I would with other people, I wanted to over deliver with you too. And I think it's just it's part of the experience. It's just like, this is it's a special, it's almost like a first impression type thing. It's like, you come here, I want to welcome you into my home. I don't know. I think it's just a very, it's like a primal thing. You want to make sure that everything's good. I'm curious.
I don't think everyone else feels like that though.
You think so?
No, I've come across a lot of people who don't give a shit.
Just don't care.
Right.
You know, like if you would come into their house, they just don't try and change.
No one, like not everyone thinks to just go out of their way to over deliver an experience. You know what I mean? Like it's one of the ways that I teach, like in business, like you and I both kind of help other people with some business building stuff. And one of the things that I teach is leave room in your business to over deliver. Right? Like not necessarily under promise so you can over deliver, but leave room where you can over deliver with your clients and blow expectations out of the water.
Sure. Is there anybody that this is more of a left field question. Is there anybody that you would freak out, like if you got to actually meet in person? Are you that type of person? Like if you met, like I'm talking anybody in the world, like if you met them, would you like legit freak out and like freeze up or something? Get sweaty palms.
How to word? Yes and no. Right. Okay. I'm not like fangirl Jared, like, oh my gosh, da 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 da. But there's some people who I look up to who, if I found out they were coming over, I'd get a little bit nervous. I'd be like, oh shit.
Right.
Who's coming over?
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or when it's like, let's say someone I've looked up to online and I go to a seminar or an event or run into them and I'm like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not like, I don't have the same energy with every single person, like with whoever that is.
Yeah.
But if it's someone who especially I've looked up to, someone that's made a big impression on my life, and I found out like they were gonna be somewhere.
Yeah,
I'm like, I would get a little bit like, What about you? No.
As far as me, I think this is my definitely white millennial male coming out, but I think Joe Rogan would be pretty. I think it'd be pretty cool to meet him in person. I think it would be somewhat. I feel like he's also just somewhat of like an intimidating person to begin with. You know what I'm saying? So just he
shakes your hand and like he's like, I could choke you out 18 different ways right now.
Yeah. That's somewhat what I think about. But it's just like, have you ever been to a big concert and something and been around? So like I went to a Drake concert one time and I saw like Drake was up on the little balcony or whatever thing. Like he was fairly close and it was literally like, it was almost like surreal. Like it was almost like I couldn't believe Drake was actually that close to me. This was, you know, probably like 8 years ago or like 9 years ago or something. This is quite some time ago. I don't know if I would have that same reaction, but it's just so interesting how, because this is all, he's just another guy.
Sure.
But it's all just made up in our head, like the status and everything else, like how important he actually is. But then you see him in person. And I feel like it's just like fantasy for the most part. You see these people, you see these celebrities, you see these certain people, and it's not real. But whenever you get to meet them in person or see them in person, then you're like, oh shit, this is a real person. And like, I don't know, it humanizes them.
Well, so I think it's interesting because I've been fortunate enough to be on the receiving end of that.
Sure.
And it's changed my perspective a little bit. I've had people, because of some of the following stuff I have on social, same with you. I know we were talking about earlier, you know, you've been out and about in New York and someone's like, oh shit, are you Matt? I listened to your podcast, and they have kind of a fangirl or a fan guy moment. Well, it like the first time that ever happened to me, I was like at a hotel, I was at a conference or whatever. And someone like I was working out in the hotel gym. I think we were talking about this earlier.
Right.
And a couple of dudes came up and they're like, dude, wait, you're the @real Jared Hamilton guy. And I'm like, yeah, man, what's up? And they're like, yeah, you got to open the lighter. And they're like, they kind of like freaked out a little bit. Sometimes that lighter can be weird. And they like freaked out a little bit, but in my head, I'm like, I'm literally a normal motherfucker.
Yeah.
Right. And it was like, why are they freaking out about me?
We're like the most normal.
You know what I mean?
Coming from around where we are from and just, I feel like as far as, you know, not any like super special upbringing or anything like that. Right. Like I think it's.
But then if you think about that on the standpoint of even like, let's say someone like Drake in your example, he still grew up a normal kid, right? You know, everyone behind whatever it is still a fucking human with insecurities, with probably some shit from their childhood, with whatever it may be. You know what I mean? But I don't know. It's weird we do that. Like everyone does it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I think that there's just something fascinating about that. Like the whole seeing someone as like an ideal or like some type of I don't know, like a false figure. I feel like it's like a godlike figure that we can look at and yeah, man. I don't know. How's the cigar going? Is it good?
It's good, man. If you guys are noticing, I am lighting Matt cigars for him because you know what? Hey. Sometimes we gotta have training wheels, guys. It's no big deal.
I'm figuring it out.
We don't training wheel shame here.
I'm trying new things. I'm figuring it out, and it's just like I feel like cigars is one of those things that you, as a guy, it's like you gotta smoke a cigar at some point. You gotta at least. Here's the thing. Oh, this isn't interesting. I'm wondering. Do you ever feel?
Probably shouldn't have done that right next to the mic. Sorry, David.
No, it's all good. Hey, this is real shit. There's some things that I think like, oh, I need to, as a guy. and I feel like this is probably certain ways with girls, and I'm not even getting into the debates between like, masculinity, femininity, like what guys should do, what girls should do, et cetera, et cetera. But it's like, are there certain things, like, I feel the need to know how to smoke a cigar. Do you see what I'm saying? Just like guys, a more common example would be changing a tire. Exactly.
But like the fact that we both thought that just
exactly.
Now, you know what I mean?
I'm trying to think, is there other things that you can think of like off the top of my, that's why, you know what, like one of the things that I think I got into bourbon, and just one of the reasons, I guess, this is not the main reason. I'm not that vain, but like I don't like beer, and I don't like drinking beer, and I wish I did, because I feel like it's a manly thing to do. Like it's a cool, like you got a bottle of beer, you're chilling, chilling with your boys, you're at a sports event or something, you drink a little bit of beer out of the bottle, and or a big tall draft or something. But it's just like I've never gotten into it. So it's like with alcohol or with bourbon in particular, I feel like it's a manly thing to do. But why? Why like?
I to be honest, again, it goes back to expectations, right? Like let's say the more masculine things that are stereotypical, like guys changing tires, fixing things, getting on the roof and doing shit, whatever, like
handyman.
It's because it's a societal expectation, right? But let's say someone grew up in a household with a single mom with only girls that had no men in the house, where and this isn't one of those things where it's like, oh, men can only do this and women can only do this. That's not where this conversation's going, but it's like, it's an expectations thing. I know plenty of women who can work on a car literally in circles around me.
Oh, for sure. Or jiu-jitsu. Think about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
how many girls
literally I've rolled
whoop my ass. This is mine, right?
Yeah, you're good. Yeah. I don't think it matters at this point.
Right. Yeah, no, girls whoop my ass.
Yeah, but like it's one of those things where I think it's an expectation. If you grew up in a household that was a little bit more old school, whereas like the women stayed home, cooked, cleaned, did their stuff.
Right.
Not that men can't cook or clean, but if that's what was expected during the household, you know what I mean? Not to mean that can't change or whatever, but from a societal, or not even societal, from an individual household expectation. Because actually, when Shelby and I were going through, so before we got married, we went to premarital counseling just to make sure like no red flags, and we got everything on point.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was before we got married.
I feel like that's a good idea.
Yeah, we like said, hey, let's go to some premarital counseling just to make sure like our ducks are in a row, and everything was great. But one of the things that the counselors that were helping us were talking about is a big issue that can cause some issues during marriage is an expectations thing. Like, let's say, for example, I grew up and my mom did cook. Well, so growing up, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. So my mom cooked, cleaned, took care of us kids, things like that. Well, Shelby growing up, my wife, her mom and dad worked different schedules and stuff. So there were plenty of times Shelby's dad, as a little girl, put her hair in a ponytail and got her ready for school. Her mom didn't. Her mom was already at work. So her dad, being self-employed, made sure the kids got on the bus, made their breakfasts, did what might be stereotypical mom stuff.
Yeah.
There's that little bit New York vibe with the sirens.
Hey, we're in Kentucky.
That's right.
We still got ambulances and fire trucks here. We got sirens.
That's right. But I think it's an individual expectation of how you were brought up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But if you're, again, more full circle, if your expectations are off, your experience of growing up or the marriage, in my case, the example I gave, can change.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because I just think that there are certain things that I want to. I think this is where the one thing that I am self-conscious about is, and especially it happened whenever I lived in New York, where it was a little bit more dangerous and stuff.
Sure.
But like self-defense.
Yeah.
Right? So whenever you got into jiu-jitsu, would you say that your overall confidence in your ability to defend yourself? I feel like even from what I've heard, even if you have like 2 to 3 weeks of jiu-jitsu training, you're going to be miles ahead of somebody with no jiu-jitsu training.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
So for anyone to give context up to speed, I've been doing jiu-jitsu for like 3 years. I hold a blue belt for those who give a shit. But no, I totally agree with that. Like, to be honest, like this is common among the police officer world, where if like you just train, if any police officer just trains jiu-jitsu for 6 months, you will probably never have an issue on the road, because that's like, especially current climate of things where like people are having to use more force than necessary. The cop gets hurt. The person getting arrested gets hurt because it takes 17 people to hold down one person who doesn't want to behave. But because they don't know how to handle someone who doesn't want to sit still in a way that keeps the victim safe in harm and out of harm's way.
It's safe for everybody.
It's safe for everyone. The cop doesn't get hurt or killed. The person getting attempted to be arrested doesn't get hurt, killed, or maimed in the process.
Do they teach that in the police academy at all? Do they? I mean, I know they teach.
There's
a
level
like
of combatives, but like it's actually cool. I've actually heard rumor of certain states are basically among police departments going to be basically requiring a level of jiu-jitsu ranking for officers, like to hold a blue belt. Like, to give you perspective, like. I know, so I train with a lot of cops. A lot of cops come through the jiu-jitsu school I go to, and I've had some really intimate conversations after class with some of these officers or newer officers, and they're like, it's intimidating because you get someone, let's say, not necessarily trying to toot my own horn, let's say there's someone that's been training for 1, 2, 3 years, like let's say like myself or some of my training partners who are not officers, who do not go out and fight crime on a daily basis, who is not in danger every day. They slap hands with a cop, and the cop gets the shit beat out of them.
Yeah.
And the cop's like, they're like, this was such a false sense of security I had. Because I had an officer friend of mine that I trained with open up, and he said, here's the issue. He said, and most cops won't tell you this, he said, when we're on the road and someone's fighting back, they're fighting back just enough to run away. So they're not really trying to most bad guys aren't trying to cause crazy amounts of harm and kill officers. They're trying to fight enough to run. But you go to a jiu-jitsu class, you slap hands and square up, and it's who taps first.
Yeah.
And it's intimidating. And they're like, and my officer friends are like, there's almost a false sense of security because like this person is actually trying to, in a controlled training environment, try to submit me or try to win the fight, where it's like, this isn't what happens on the road. And I don't know how we got talking around this side of stuff.
It was because I was talking about wanted to be able to self-defend myself. And then I was saying that I feel like out of all things, in most situations, especially because if you're going to get into if you're just an everyday person, you get into a confrontation or something, it's probably going to be somewhat like this close. And ideally, you're not going to like try and punch the person. You would try to prevent that from happening. But then if you get into a confrontation, you're probably like jiu-jitsu, taking the guy on the ground is going to go to the ground.
Sure.
And so you may throw 1 or 2 punches, and then if you get lucky or not, but then if you go to the ground, then that's where
because 9 times out of 10 fights aren't fair.
Right.
Half of the fight is usually surprised, right? You're walking down a street and you get bashed on the back of the head. You're on the ground. The guy's above you wanting your wallet, right? Or like in jiu-jitsu or other fighting sports, you know, like you're not allowed to elbow to the back of the head. You can't kick them in the groin. You can't gouge their eyes. You're on the street, like the fights aren't fair, right? Which is why like any level of understanding you already have, it's just like awareness, right? Like a t-shirt collar. If I stretched my t-shirt collar out, it's never going to regain its original shape. Whereas once your awareness has been changed, it's never going to regain and shrink again. You know what I mean?
Do you think? Do you have the Joe Rogan thinking where you never want to wear a tie? Because Joe Rogan says he never wants to wear a tie because of how easy someone could choke him out with. So I know you train with gi, right?
So well, what's funny is at this point it really doesn't matter because what's funny is my jiu-jitsu coach says he hates wearing hooded sweatshirts.
Right, that's another one that I feel like
you can get. But here's the thing: is I talked my instructors into having a Friday night class where, because usually at the school I go to on Friday nights it's just rolling. Everyone goes and just spars all night. I said we should have a street clothes night where everyone like goes to Goodwill or gets a old sweatshirt and we roll in t-shirts and hoodies and see what happens.
Yeah,
and a t-shirt, you can choke somebody out.
Yeah, that's true.
A hooded sweatshirt, you can choke someone out. Like I get it with ties, right? It's super easy because it's literally a tie. But like that collar, that shirt, you could get choked out because you got handles. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But then like I've honestly never understood why a lot of people get weird about that in the jiu-jitsu community, because also, have you never seen high school wrestling or no-gi jiu-jitsu? You're damn near naked, right? You've either got Under Armour shirt and shorts on, so you have nothing to grab, but wrists and the back of a neck,
right? Or a singlet,
and it doesn't matter. Like, and people are getting choked out left and right. So, like, I've never understood why people in the fighting community are like, "Oh my gosh, like I don't want to wear any of it." It's like no-gi. There are no-gi world champions who can choke out anybody.
Sure, yeah.
You know?
I don't think the clothing's going to be the determining factor.
And to be honest, most people suck at that kind of stuff under the circumstances of even like a gi, let alone a t-shirt that's going to rip a little bit or whatever.
Do you follow UFC at all?
Oh yeah.
Did you watch UFC 263?
I didn't see this last one.
Okay, so that is one thing that I did.
I don't follow it as much as I used to.
Because Nate Diaz was in it, and I love Nate Diaz.
Yeah, he's crazy.
So fun to watch.
I used to. It's if like some of the big names that I know of are fighting. I don't follow it as close as I used to. But yeah, Diaz is. He can take a fucking hit.
No, he's a maniac.
Yeah.
So it's just basically this guy from the West Coast who if you just imagine a street fighter, if you could create one just from scratch, that's what he would look. That's how he looks like. And whenever he's fighting and things,
he's not like this.
He's
like
talking shit. He's just like a West Coast gangster. Basically,
he's literally not like the shredded bodybuilder looking dude with
he's like
abs.
skinny. He's like skinny fat.
He
almost.
literally looks like your average dude that's trying to start shit at a bar.
Yes.
Doesn't stand up. He didn't even stand up straight. He walks out. He looks half out of shape. His face is all fucked up from getting hit in the face so many times because he can get hit in the face so many times and not go down
so much. But I'm just trying to think like why, because what I was listening on the we got dogs barking. It's all good. Sorry, David. But with I was listening to podcasts talk about that, and it's just like, why do we relate to that type of why do we relate to Nate so well? And I feel like one of the reasons why we relate to Nate so well is because of the realness of him, and the I just going back to kind of full circle about if I met Nate, I feel like I would get Nate. You know what I'm saying? Like,
without a doubt,
I feel like I would get that exact type of person, and I think that is what draws people probably a lot to your content and my content too. It's like some of the best compliments that I can get is just like, I love how honest you are. I love it. Your content seems refreshing. And it's just like, why is it refreshing? And I think it's refreshing because we've been able, me and you, because I'm sure you've gotten compliments similar, but it's
I was
just
going to ask you what your main compliments you get are. Mine are always the same.
They're always the same?
Roughly.
There's
like the same, let's say the same 5.
I feel so it's typically honesty. They like the realness or the refreshingness of my content. And also I've on so many occasions they're like, I feel like I could get a drink with you at a bar and hang out. And that makes me feel really good because I would love to get a drink with all of you.
That's right.
That's how I feel. But yeah, no, I think it's just like I want to. A big thing of mine is being people's friends. Like I'm in this game. A big part of this game for me is just making more friends, and that's why I'm so stoked. It's come to fruition here. It's like not only with other like colleagues or whatever you want to call us, right? But just anybody that thinks the way that we do, right? Because while we're not the exact same, a lot of our morals and values and judgments on things align.
Well, because the other thing too along those lines here, take a puff.
Hey.
One of the things along those same lines is I heard a statement, and I don't think I can argue with it. I'm curious. It's along these lines. I'm curious your thoughts. Is you can't respect someone without liking them. Think about anyone you respect. You like them. But anyone you do not like, you probably don't respect.
Yeah, that's fair.
For the most part. Because there may be some caveats.
Well, no. I'm literally just trying to genuinely think about the question, and I think that's true because you have to at least like certain aspects of them to respect them, right? Because what do you respect? You know what I'm saying? Like that's where.
But if you're just like, I fucking hate that guy. I don't like that. Like there might be like. I can think of a couple asterisks to that, right? Like I know some people who like don't like me, but they know I know how to calculate a fucking calorie deficit, right? You know what I mean? But they're like, I hate how much you cuss. I just don't like your face, whatever. But like, other than a couple asterisks like that, because I don't think there's even respect there. It's like you have something I want.
Well, has any of those people ever became one of your clients? Because I had one of those. I had a guy who literally sent me a very, not like a annoying, oh, hey, how much you cuss, whatever. He gave me a genuine like critique or whatever about it. And then I gave him my genuine answer because I'm sure you're like me and I've thought a lot about this and like, should I not cut? Like, does it take anything away or whatever? And so I told him, I was like, I would actually be disingenuous if I didn't curse. And it's just like, there's a big difference between and fuck right? Like, and I can't get that second part down without saying fuck.
Well, like if like the difference between saying I love you versus I fucking love you, it's different. It's but here's the thing.
Yeah, you're right.
But the thing that like I get it, like okay, on paper maybe like part of my brain is like okay, maybe you should cuss less. But here's the thing: I cuss in real life.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna stop changing. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna quit cussing in real life. So then what happens if I stop cussing online and people think I'm this prim and proper politically correct Jared?
Sure.
And they meet me in real life and they're like, yeah, fuck that motherfucker. And they're like, bad experience.
Yes.
Bad
right.
because expectations are broken.
You're being yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And that's,
here's the other piece with that too is in this, I've literally had this in my DMs or in the comment section. Like I had a video, like let's say I cussed a whole bunch, like a rant or something. Well, I've had literally on top of each other where someone says, wow, I'm unfollowing you. You're unprofessional, shouldn't cuss so much.
Yeah.
And the comment below it says, holy shit, I love how much you cuss. I've had people sign up with me. I've had clients literally say, I love how real you are. I love how much you cuss in the way you explain things and how raw you are. Because that's why I decided to work with you.
Because the cursing is not a performance. You're not cussing for the sake of cussing, right? Like you're just talking, just like we're talking now. I'm not thinking about like it's just it is what it is.
And here's the other thing: the reality is most people cuss.
Yeah.
Right. So it's
for sure.
And it's not just that's just one example of it, but it's one of those things where we're not hiding anything. You know, I'm not acting one way to try to get a sale or to try to persuade you. It's like, I'm just being Jared. If you're down with that, cool, let's connect and lock arms. And if you're not, fuck off. There's plenty of other people who need my help. Like
and there's other people that maybe you'll get along with better. Or you'll take some better message from.
Here's the other piece. This is going to kind of sound really bad.
Lay it on us.
I'm not, me personally, this is how I view it. I'm not for everyone.
Of course not.
Like,
we shouldn't.
And if somebody, and if someone's like, I mean, like let's take something arbitrary, like a size large shirt. Well, that means it's not for the people who wear smalls and not for the people who wear extra larges. It's
very true.
It's for one person who wears larges. But imagine if everyone like said, "Oh no, the large is a piece of shit because it doesn't fit me." It's like to be honest with you, I do this on purpose. I like my content and who I am as a person to attract the right people and repel the wrong people. I don't want to be this kind of lukewarm in the middle, pleases everyone. Because then what's funny is then there are going to be people who it doesn't resonate with. They're like, I feel like Jared's just in the middle. He doesn't have it. He doesn't stand for anything. He doesn't. Yes. He's not his own person. He tries to make everyone happy. You're not. No matter what you do, you're going to be judged. You're going to be hated. You're going to be loved. Mm-hmm. You might as well do what's authentic to you. Because then all of a sudden, if you are just like, well, I'm trying to please everybody, then all of a sudden you literally gave up your identity. You now have regret and you now have all these negative feelings because you're like, well, I gave up my identity. You know, not that my identity is the word fuck, but if you start like giving up aspects of who you are.
Exactly. Where do you stop?
Right. And it's like, who are you doing this for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, listen, I 100% agree. I want to know the compliments though. I want to know what we didn't get to the compliment part. I want to know what compliments you normally get.
Very much the same as yours.
Okay, cool.
I love how usually it's right. It's compliments usually on real. Like my content just seems so real. It's authentic. It's no bullshit. They feel like they would just like I have a beer with me, that kind of thing.
Do you feel any imposter syndrome or
every fucking day?
Yeah. Well, I'm saying after people say compliments, do you have a gut reaction of just like almost not believing them for a split second? Or maybe it's almost like disbelief or it's like questioning, like, do I deserve that? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes and no. So, when people here's the thing, it's such a gray area. So, do I have imposter syndrome every fucking day?
Sure.
I have my own insecurities I deal with, like all of you, every day. And there's definitely some imposter syndrome. I think part of growth is imposter syndrome. I don't think you're ever going to get out of that.
I don't think you can have growth without the imposter syndrome.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people struggle with the whole, like when you just said, am I worthy of that or am I deserving of that? That's something that what originally, one of the other few reasons why when I started therapy like a year and a half ago is I couldn't shake this unworthiness thing. And the reason I like to talk about that is because I know it's like every person I talk to feels that way. They're like, they go to lose weight and then they're like, I just feel like I'm not good enough to lose weight. Well, that underlying belief is going to sabotage anything that goes against it, right? Someone's like, I don't deserve to look good in my own skin. Well, then they lose 20 pounds. Well, now their reality goes against their core belief. They have to fuck it up. Then something's going to happen. Life is going to get in the way. Something legitimate is going to bring their results back to where their base level beliefs are.
Right. How much do you think Well, of course, there's not going to be a number on this, but do you run into people who sometimes, as you're talking with them and as they keep going through things, and maybe you've been working with them for a while, maybe sometimes you have to wonder, are they just addicted to drama in their life? Like, are they addicted to like self-sabotaging themselves so that they don't ever, get out of this loop? Because I feel like for some people, the drama in their lives can be one of the few things that actually makes them feel alive. They feel something, right? They have these raw emotions and things. And I think I read this. Sure. There's a book called The Courage to be Disliked, and it's based on the teachings of Alfred Adler, who is one of Sigmund Freud's biggest rivals, basically. Okay. And it's an excellent book, and that's one of the things that they talk about. And it's just sometimes you have to ask yourself how. Well, actually, Tim Ferriss asked this question. He said, "How am I complicit in the conditions that I say I don't want?" Do you see what I'm saying?
I know the exact answer. I think so first of all, yes, I think people are addicted to their drama, their negativity, their whatever, their emotional addictions. I think it comes down to this though. They are addicted to the old story. I actually just did a giant talk on this in my group coaching program last night. They're addicted to the past. They're addicted to the old story because psychology teaches us that the mind craves what's familiar because what's familiar is safe even if it's bad.
It's comfortable.
Right? It's one of those things where your mind doesn't care if you're happy. Your mind cares about self-preservation, or the brain does. So let's compare it to something not weight loss. This is why we see people, one of the reasons people stay trapped in toxic relationships. Well, yeah, my boyfriend's narcissistic and he's verbally abusive, but I just don't know why I can't leave. Right? Trigger warning, sorry. But but most people in that case or whatever other shitty situation is the way the brain sees it. It's it sucks, but I know what's coming. I can prepare for it, right? The whole expect the worst, but hope for the best.
Yes.
Because the brain doesn't care about happiness. It cares about self-preservation. So if there's an old story you've had or the old identity you've had for 20 years and it sucks, let's say it's sabotage, let's say it's regress, let's say it's drama. Yeah, it sucks, but it's not unfamiliar territory. Mm-hmm. But the thought of thriving, the thought of letting that old story die is uncomfortable. And the thought of stepping into something new, that's called the unknown, and you might die. Literally, it's what the psychology teaches us, that the brain, the way the brain operates, that's why we crave what's familiar and we drift to what's familiar.
It's safe.
Yeah.
It's safe.
Even if it's bad. And even if it doesn't serve us.
Sure. And then so I guess is the actions, or is the move forward from that, is it probably doing some type of self-reflection work on the deep-rooted stuff of that, and also simultaneously acting kind of out of your comfort zone into this new story maybe that you're creating? Yeah,
you can't escape a jail you don't know you're trapped in, right? So
See?
Part of it is understanding.
This fucking guy with the sayings. I love it.
That one came from Dr. Joe Dispenza. That's where I first heard it.
It's all good.
But think about it. It's like a fish trying to swim around, trying to find the water. It's like, bro, you're in the water. Right. And it's one of those things where part of it is, number one, awareness of, wow, this is the current circumstances. Because if you don't know, you can't do better. Right. If you don't know the engine in the car is broken, how can you take it to the mechanic to get fixed?
Sure.
But then number two is basically knowing, oh, wow, the old story is definitely what's fucked me up. Okay, we're going to do the process to let the old story die. But then rewrite the new one. Yeah. What's interesting is there's an analogy that I'll take credit for it. I came up with it myself.
Hey, there we go.
And this one's resonated. Whenever I say it to someone, it usually hits home. Is I say, imagine if you were going to bed tonight, whatever you believe in, a little angel came and said, hey, you're going to get in a car accident tonight or tomorrow. You're going to get into a car accident. It's going to throw you straight into a coma. When you awake from the coma, you are going to have no recollection of your past or your identity or who you are. So here's your one opportunity to write a letter that you're going to read when you wake up. Mm. Would you put in that letter the old story, the old suck, the old shit that you've been struggling with? The answer is no, right? No, everyone's going to be like, no, I'm going to put everything I want, who I want to be. I'm not going to put in any of my struggle, my old past, my old story. But the thing is, you can do that anytime. You have zero responsibility to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago.
Right.
To be honest with you.
Remember that saying? I love that saying.
I can't remember who said it.
I can't either, but I love it. Because I remember hearing it either from you first or from somebody else as well. I really like that.
Literally, it's part of my morning routine. I do inner work just about every morning, and I literally reinvent and reaffirm the identity I want every single day. It's we call it, let's say, like some people call it future self journaling or whatever it is, and it's one of those things. It's not just about a way to think and like, or affirmations or whatever. It's like, here's a story I want to be. Here's who I'm committing to being and becoming. The old story, the old Jared, whatever, is dead and gone. That doesn't exist. Hold space for it, but it's no longer a thing. Yeah. Here's who I'm gonna be. But it's like every day I do what I can to reinvent myself, because presented with new information, new awareness, new standards, and you can do that every day.
Sure.
And it's one of those things where this way you're not trapped by the old story.
I would even go so far as to say, this is what I tell clients sometimes who struggle really with the all or nothing mentality, is that they're seeing these events as interlinked, as far as the last meal dictates how you eat this meal, or something that you did yesterday dictates the actions of what you should do today. And I think that one of the best things that I heard from Sam Harris, who's a PhD, a neuroscientist, and he has an app called Waking Up. It's a meditation app, and he has a lesson on there about beginning again. And not even is each day a new time to reinvent yourself, but at every single moment, there's no reason. Like you said, the 5 minutes, like you don't have any obligation to who you were 5 minutes ago. Yep. That's what I tell these people who struggle with all or nothing. It's just like if, and it goes back to the. Or I talk about how there's no reason why the next 5 minutes can't be the most focused, the most on track, the best decision-making process that you can make, and the most valuable 5 minutes that you can possibly have in the next 5 minutes. You literally just decide that. And to take it from a workout standpoint, whenever people talk about how they sometimes slack off in a workout or they struggle with staying focused, I was like, you can stop in the middle of a workout and realize that the first 30 minutes of that has been complete shit. I was like, there's no reason why your next set can't be the most intentional, focused, intense set you've ever done in your entire life. Like, why not? Why couldn't it be? And why can't the rest of the workout be absolutely the best you can possibly make it? And it's just like, it's not, oh, I'll wait till Monday for a clean slate. I'll wait till tomorrow for a clean slate. It's like the very next moment, the next decision is that clean slate.
Well, it's funny. People go right about now in the conversation. Most people I hear go, well, Jared, I can't just snap out of it and change this. And I call bullshit.
Right.
Here's what's funny. Anyone that's listening, I love specifically talking to moms about this. Every mom I know, as soon as they got a positive pregnancy test, their identity switched to I'm mom. They walk different. They talk different. They out of nowhere gave up things like drinking, smoking, bad eating habits, not being active. Literally, someone has shitty habits and a shitty identity. Then they get a positive piss test for being pregnant. Mm-hmm. And in a moment they go, I'm mom. The baby, there's a baby inside you, but you didn't know until a little fucking $3
You're the same person.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing is, in a moment you did that. Or if all of a sudden you've, let's say your dad almost died. Let's say your dad got put in a coma and you thought you were never going to talk to your dad again, but then some miracle happened and he came out of it. You instantly are going to have a tighter relationship with him. Sure. Right? Like, we have all these instances in our lives. Let's say a near-death experience, grandma almost died, whatever it is, and you shift your perspective and your identity in a moment. There's no reason we can't do it now, because the reality is, the reasons people say they can't is that old story that needs to die. And well, I just can't switch it. No, that's the old story. Well, Jared, you don't know what happened to me when I was little. My parents said this. It's like, okay, I hold space for that. But that's the old story. Mm-hmm. It's the old story just has to die. To be honest, it's trying to die. Kyle Cease, one of my favorites, says it best is everything's trying to die. Your hair cells are dying every day. Your skin cells are dying every day. All these leaves are dying right now. Everything is dying. But imagine this tree trying to hold on to its leaves, but it can't, because you can't be the new you hanging on to the old you. The old you has to die.
Right. You know what it makes me think of? This is a more random tangent, but it makes me think of the... have you ever seen the movie Major Payne before? Okay, so Major Payne is people that have seen it are probably laughing right now. It's an absolutely ridiculous movie. But he's a he's a major or whatever, and he's working with one of the cadets or something like that, and the cadet breaks his leg or something, and he's screaming to the major, it's like, oh my God, my leg hurts, it hurts so bad, it hurts. And then the major goes, I can fix it. And he walks up to him and he breaks his finger. He said, oh good, so now you can think about your broken finger instead of your broken leg. And for some reason, while you were saying that, but it's just like, you think, oh, I can't fix this pain in my leg, but then he goes up and breaks your finger, and then you start focusing on your broken finger, right? And it's just another metaphor towards if your parents, just like you were going through. I think this is whenever you can get like business struggles put into perspective, whenever you would have maybe somebody going through a major illness or something like that, and then you realize, what the fuck am I upset? I think probably COVID did that for a lot of people, as far as things like, oh, I'm worried. I probably from a complete societal standpoint, I feel like we were, and of course, I'm fucking talking shit, but it's just like we were focusing on weird or focusing on things that probably weren't as important as we were giving them credit for, but it was just kind of the problems of the now. And then COVID comes along, and then we're just like, oh shit, right? There's other things going on, and even on another extent, of course, COVID is bad and then things like that. But there's other stuff, concentration camps in China. Yeah. Like there's real shit like gang violence in deep parts of Chicago or something, right? Like just crazy stuff that is going on all the time. But for some reason, we tend to focus on,
stupid shit,
whatever, more other things. But I think that I don't even know how I got on this tangent, but I think that it is important to keep these perspectives. And sometimes if you need some thinking like that, some contrast thinking, I don't know, I think that's what it's called or something, but having that perspective of just like, I keep telling myself I can't, but it's also probably part of me doesn't want to let go of that.
It's because it's hard and scary. Like, and I hold space for that, and it's totally normal. But here's the thing, one of our favorites, bringing back the great Joe Rogan.
There we go.
Have you seen Joe Rogan's, he has like a mini version of this for like quick motivational video, but then he has a longer version. Have you seen the Be the Hero of Your Own Movie?
Of course I have.
Okay. If you have not, those watching, seen Be the Hero of Your Own Movie, go just type in on YouTube, Be the Hero of Your Own movie, Joe Rogan. If you can watch the longer one, watch it. If you can't, watch the short one. But one of the best things he says in there is literally this concept of letting the old self die and stop fighting for your reasons not to be whatever you're trying to be. And one of the things he says is you're not your failures, right? He's like, you're not, you may have failed, but you're not a failure. You're the person that learned from your failure. That's powerful, right? Like,
yes.
Like the fact that you're not your failure, you can look back, like let's say hypothetically I just trashed my entire business. Let's say my business burns to the ground. Yeah, I would feel like a failure for a little bit because I let my business burn to the ground. But you're telling me the next business I would start, or if I restarted my business, I wouldn't have an edge on it because of what I learned from the failure?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Where it's too often we are letting, actually, I think I have the notes still.
What if so I'm thinking also while you pull that up, what about the flip side? What if you're also not your successes? I think this can
Absolutely.
I think this can go both
Absolutely.
ways, where people want to say, "Oh, you're not your failures" or whatever. But I think that this as far as expectations go, it's like whatever. With success, you can't get so high on your own supply, because then whenever shit does go wrong, it's going to really go wrong, and you're really gonna be down on yourself and things like that. So I think it's this constant calibration between too high and too low.
Yeah, it's to sound really hippy dippy. It's the now.
Yeah.
The only thing true is this moment,
because everything else is the stories and scripts and stuff that we're kind of telling. Like the reason why that failure even matters in the first place is because we say it does.
I have this in my notes from a talk I did in my group program.
Lay it on us.
And it was this from Joe Rogan's video. It says, your past doesn't exist anymore, so stop defining yourself by the things that don't serve you from the past. Things like when you say, oh, I don't finish things. No. You're not. You may have not finished things in the past before, but that doesn't mean you're Matt that doesn't finish things. When I'm working with someone that has bigger issues like binge eating, emotional eating, you're not an emotional eater. You may have emotionally eaten as a verb,
right?
But you're not.
It's not a label.
Jared, the emotional eater, an identity. And the issue is, because think of it this way, how hard is it to break a bad habit when you attach it to your identity, right? We talked about your brain is going to do everything to protect its identity and beliefs. So if you go, I'm Sarah, the emotional eater, or the binger, or the smoker, or the I'm never motivated, or the I'm never make anything of myself, or whatever, and then you start to get results that go the other way, Let's say you go, oh, I'm Jared that never finishes books, and I finish a book. I'm going to find some way to fuck up some stuff because it goes against my identity. It's crazy.
So even if it's a shitty identity, or not a shitty identity, but
not serving.
That's a better phrase, guys. Not shitty. But even if it's a not serving identity, we still like to get caught up with it because it is still a identity. It is something, it is a part of us that we feel home to. It's feel comfortable with.
There's something I picked up from Ed Milet on one of his talks. It's one of a really cool thing you can do is like, let's say you do something that's not so great. Like, okay, let's give a sports example. Let's say you go to kick a field goal and you miss. Instead of going, fuck, I'm such a failure, you attach your identity to the fuck up, but instantly go, that's not like me. You literally took it away from your identity now.
Interesting.
Or like, let's say you kick a field goal and you make it, and then you go, internally you go, that's what I do. I fucking win. And now you're being tactical about what you want to be attached to your identity, right?
I think so. Another part from this that goes along the same lines is there's a guy by the name of Dan. Oh fuck, what's his name? But he's the writer of the book. I think it's called like 10% Happier, and he also has a meditation app called 10% Happier. But he was talking about one of the things that with emotions, right? And so the same thing as far as having an identity and kind of labeling yourself as something, he was talking about anger, right? And he said, so instead of saying, I am angry, so like identifying with being angry, he said, there is anger. You know what I'm saying? So instead of framing that difference in your mind, he was like, of course, emotions and anger and things like that can be very valid and it can be helpful in things. But after the 17th time that you've called yourself a dickhead or that you've beaten yourself up or whatever,
he's such a dumbass.
He's like, that's just not helpful. Yeah. You know, it's so at a certain point you have to realize like these things that you're doing it's just not helpful.
An example I like to give to people, because I don't know why, but so many people have it like in their DNA. It's like to be self-deprecating, right? It's like it's cool to make fun of yourself or to be like, oh, I'm not, or like don't. Oh, hang on. Okay, you're good. No, I didn't want that was gonna spill.
Got it.
You passed that on the lighter, and I didn't want it
I felt something.
Yeah. But it's like, a question I like to ask is, would you tell your kid that? Because when you always frame it in terms of your child, people see things different. Like when, for example,
I kind of like that even better than a friend because it can be very relatable.
So here's more like when someone comes to me and they're struggling with their identity around weight loss, and I go, hey, you need to accept before you change. Because when you go to change, you're denying. You're like, oh, I won't love myself until I lose my 50 pounds. And I go, no. We have to accept and love first. Accept and love yourself as is now, and then we can change. And they go, Jared, I just can't do that. And I go, so if you had so I said, what's your daughter's name? And they go, Sarah. I said, how old is Sarah? And let's say Sarah's like a 5-year-old. And I go, is Sarah little? I said, what would you do if your daughter Sarah came to you and said, Mommy, hold me? And you said, sorry, you're too fat. I won't love you I won't love you and hold you until you go lose weight. Every person I tell that to will tear up because they go, oh, they get it. It hits home instantly.
Sure.
Because they go, well, I can't just accept myself because I hate the way I look and feel. And I go, no. We have to accept and love, then we can change. Right? Just because you accept and love doesn't mean we won't change. But imagine you wouldn't let your 7-year-old child come to you and go, Mommy, hold me, I had a bad day. And then they go, and you go, sorry, you're too fat for Mommy. Go lose weight, then I'll hold you. That would make you a fucking shitty piece of human, right?
Yeah.
Or like if your kid, like that's the thing with parents. This is why parent or inner child work around weight loss is so important, because you need to be the space for yourself that makes everything okay to feel. We got to quit denying our inner emotions. Well, like if as a parent, it doesn't matter what your kid does, you accept, right? Let's say your son gets stung by the world's biggest wasp and like the world's ending into him. You don't say, chill the fuck out, it's just a wasp. You go, come here.
Yeah.
And it makes everything better. And then we can take care of the sting.
Right.
But we have to accept first and then change later.
Right. No, that makes 100% sense. And I think some other stuff that I've read from psychotherapists, there's a great book that I've realized there's 2 books that I absolutely want you to read if you haven't already. One is called Already Free. And then it's by a Buddhist and a psychotherapist. And then the other one is called Awareness. And it is by I will remember it at another time, but I will absolutely send them both to you. But one of the psychotherapist and Already Free, one of the things that he talked about is it's just at the point that you're talking about, why can't there be contradicting energies at the same time? Why can't you hold space for both of those? Why can't you hold space for like, yes, I can accept myself, but then also want to improve to be better at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you can have, and also the feelings of anxiety and feelings of fear and being scared and all these things like, oh, what I'm doing is never going to work or I'm never going to change or whatever. You can have that and make space for that.
Yeah.
And also try and have the courage to take those first steps towards, a more positive life, a more positive outcome. I think that people think, oh, I can't have this emotion without first getting rid of this other emotion or suppressing this other emotion.
But the issue is when we do that, you're denying it. Again, you would
Acceptance.
not deny your child.
Yeah.
And it's funny. Our resistance to negative emotions is what keeps them here. Think about what happens when you face a fear. It goes away. What happens when you run from the fear? It gets worse. Right? Anxiety, fear, worry, depression, anxiety. I think I said anxiety twice.
You did no. That makes sense. But also, it's like just because you get rid of anxiety for one thing doesn't mean there's also not going to be anxiety ever again. And so, what the guy talks about in Already Free, he said, think about anxiety and plug in whatever emotion you're thinking of. He said, imagine you reach out your hand and you have a ball in your hand, and then for those of you just listening, I'm reaching out my hand just as arm's length and holding a ball in your hand. And no matter where I move, I can't get that ball away from me. He was like, so basically he's essentially talking about living with, he was like, what if you could never get rid of your anxiety for the rest of your life? Kind of how would you be able to go forward? It's like, of course you could continue to live throughout life, but I think it's accepting that throughout the rest of your life, there's going to be feelings of fear and uncertainty and anxiety and things. But whenever you feel that and you accept that, then the liberation comes.
Well, it's like brushing your teeth. You're going to brush your teeth till the day you die, right? Because you're going to brush your teeth because it's a project, right? Good oral health is a project.
It's a practice.
It's a project. It's a project, a practice, and something you have to work on every day. It's not a place you get to and you got to quit working on things. And that's why it's interesting. It's one of those things where everything. Just assume like because you're a human living on the planet Earth, you're gonna have feelings of worry, doubt, depression, anxiety, all these things, scarcity. So you have to have a level of acceptance because you're a human. You're not a superhuman. But the thing is, we have to accept first, and then we can change later, and then hold space for. And generally, then now they have room to leave. I compare it to like a dog. If you have a dog that's chasing you, and you continue to run from it, it's just going to keep chasing you. But what happens when you go, I'm not going to run from this dog anymore, and you just stop? The dog, okay, it might get worse for a second. It might jump on you. It might nip at you. But then you just stand there. You're now going to be boring, and the dog's going to eventually wander off and find something else because you're no longer exciting and running from it and playing with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of just the society we live in, we're never going to not have fear, worry, doubt, and anxiety. But if we constantly run from it and constantly like go, no, I'm not supposed to feel, that's like expecting never to go to the bathroom, right? Sure. It's like, assume fear, worry, doubt, and anxiety is literally like,
it's like breathing.
Explosive diarrhea.
Right. Or explosive diarrhea.
Here's the thing. What happens when you have explosive diarrhea? You go, ooh, that doesn't feel good. Sure. You don't distract from it. Sure. You don't go suppress it. You go, I need to go sit with this. And you go to the bathroom, hold space for it. What is in comes out. But guess what? We're all probably going to have explosive diarrhea another time before we die.
Sure. Yeah. You know? Yeah.
But you don't go to the bathroom and go, oh my gosh, what is this? And just try to dissect it and judge it. You go, something's in that needs to come out. We'll call it triggering. And then it leaves. Right. And then it's the same thing. If we experience fear, worry, doubt, scarcity, anxiety, anything, instead of running from it, we need to go, I'm going to allow myself to feel. Just like as a mom lets her daughter feel anything she feels or a son feel anything they feel, sit with it, be with it, be the space that allows that to be okay. And then all of a sudden it now has no choice but to leave because you're inviting it in to stay.
Right. And I mean, it's definitely tough. And I think it's definitely an ongoing practice. And I think that there's certain things that you can do to I don't know, maybe at least be able to cope with it or deal with it, or mental tools to think
Without
about
a
it,
doubt.
like we were discussing earlier. I don't know if I asked you this last time we were on the pod together. What do you do, like whenever you are maybe freaking out over something, or you're in a really bad space? Do you do anything to kind of like shock yourself out of it? Is there anything that you like tactical or anything like that?
Yeah, 1,000%. There's a saying I've come up with myself. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Philosophically tactical.
Okay. All right. I'm in.
So
say more.
So because all this shit sounds philosophical, right? But we still have to make it tactical. So what I personally do for me and what I teach is, because everything that we've said is true so far, right? Like you have to hold space. You got to quit running from it. We have to be able to make it okay to feel and then feel. Because if we don't, you eventually become numb, right? If you numb yourself to the negative, you eventually over time numb yourself to be positive, or from the positive. Then people do really fucking crazy things to feel anything, right? So how I go about it is, number one, sit with it. Two of the most tactical things you can do is meditate and journal, because they do the one thing that they have in common is hold space for it.
Okay, so let's talk to. If you guys can see on the video, we've got fucking bugs flying all around.
Actually,
us right now.
I think the camera quit. I quit seeing the red dot, so I think it's
all good. It's all good.
We got like a good hour of content from.
Yeah, we did. We're set. Well, okay, so and we're still going on the audio. We're good.
Yeah.
Okay, so so which one do you do first, and how, like meditation? Like, so if you do meditation, what do you do specific? Do you have an app? Do you have a whatever? Like, what's your go-to?
So basically, before we can like change it, because my bad habit is I want to instantly state change, but before I state change, like move my body, like reaffirm whatever I'm needing to reaffirm, or whatever the case may be. I need to hold space first, because again, that's just denying those emotions. So, here's the thing: there's no right way to do it, in my opinion. It's not like, well, meditate this way and do this first, then journal. Just do something. Do one of the things I'm about to say, where because at the end of the day, we're just holding space. So one of the best things you can do is, when I say meditate, I'm not meaning, you don't have to sit weird. You don't have to chant. You don't have to do weird shit with your hands. So much of this is you're just sitting with it. You're sitting, allowing yourself to feel, allowing your mind to go, allowing whatever to come up. Right.
Okay.
Just like,
so eyes closed, eyes open, just chilling, just literally thinking about your thinking, or just letting thoughts come and go.
As gross of an example it is, like the bathroom, you go sit and let whatever's in come out.
All right.
So,
okay.
I'm a fan of eliminating distracted. Yeah, right. I'm a fan of eliminating distraction. So no music, eyes closed, sitting down, and just being.
There we go.
Right.
Okay.
Think about. Here's a kind of an interesting analogy. Imagine the 7-year-old version of you struggling with the same thing, and you go sit with them. You don't say anything because you can't. Like, let's say your inner 7-year-old saw their dog get ran over. You can't bring the dog back. You can't. But what can you do? You sit with them. You hold them. You just be with them.
Mm-hmm.
Be with your inner child. Be with that emotion. Try to, if anything, feel it. Go, you know what? I'm going to allow myself to feel anxiety. Breathe through it. I think a lot of times when don't get me wrong, I'm all about guided meditations, but I think people can use guided meditations as a distraction. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people, where it's like, instead of thinking about letting their thoughts go and letting their emotions be felt, it's thinking like, okay, clear your mind, breathe, focus in, focus out. That sounds distracting to me.
Sure.
And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with guided meditations, but in this context, when you're triggered, when you're like, I can tell you when I am not in a good place, because we all have those times, I will literally go sit on my back patio in my hammock chair, and I will just go, sometimes I'll audibly say, it's okay for you to feel like this in my body.
Mm-hmm.
And I just let myself feel. You know what I mean?
I like that.
You can see your mom poking her head out the window.
I like that. So one thing that I do that's interesting is I try to, as woo as it is, I try to ground myself, basically. You got a little moth on your shoulder. Get that little guy off there. We're outside. This is Kentucky. We got bugs. Right. But so one thing I try and do is like ground myself. And what I say by that is nothing like woo or anything, but it's more so I can feel my butt on the cushion right now. I can feel the pressure underneath my glutes. I can feel the pressure underneath my right foot right now on my slipper that I have. I can feel the coldness on my left elbow right now from the chair that I'm sitting on. You know what I'm saying? I'll even maybe scratch. I'll get out of my head and into my body kind of type thing. And I know that what you're talking about, the context is different as far as feeling the emotions, accepting the emotions and things like that. But for me, I think that it can help to ground myself.
You're bringing yourself back to reality.
I've got to get in reality first, and sometimes I'll even scratch my leg and just feel the sensation of your nails on your leg.
So what's funny?
And it's crazy.
What's funny is
it helps.
These are those are actually what you just talked about is very common for stopping a panic attack.
Oh, okay.
So there's this. My wife used to struggle with panic attacks a lot, and she's pulled people out of panic attacks like at her work and stuff by this stuff. But there's a few things I can't remember what the exact strategy. It's like there's a strategy. It's called like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're not counting to 5. You go one thing you can touch. Okay, the table.
Oh, interesting.
2 things you can smell. Ooh. Okay, the cookies that's being baked and the coffee from the stranger that just walked by me. 3 things you can see. I see Matt. I see the microphone. I see the computer. 4 things I can feel. Whatever, and because it's doing exactly what you just did.
Oh, interesting.
Where you're gaining grounding over your senses that kind of brings you back to reality. One thing Kyle Cease says, and I do this a lot when you're in a chaotic state. It's so powerful just to take a really fucking big deep breath. It reminds you you're here. It's grounding. Because too often when we get in a negative state, it's when we're focusing on things that aren't here. Because if you think about anxiety is basically in preparation of something in the future that's going to happen, so you can prepare yourself for it. But too often when people live in anxiety, you're living in a future that hasn't happened yet, preparing for the worst thing so you don't die. So you doing these physical things brings you back to reality where you're like, okay, I'm scratching my leg. Okay, I feel that. I'll walk barefoot in the grass. It can be things like that. The other thing that I like to do, because for people who are really hesitant for meditation, because a lot of people do everything unconsciously all day to do anything but sit with themselves, right? Like the one time you sit with yourself without distraction is when you go to bed, and then you go, I can't, my brain won't shut the fuck up. Yeah. Then you like drink before you go to bed or something.
Sure.
Where it's like, imagine a child you've ignored all day. That's like, Mom. It's like that Family Guy. Mom, mommy. 10 minutes go by. Mom. Then she goes, what? Yeah. And holds space for him. And he goes, hi, and leaves. Right? So the one time you listen to your brain, you go to fucking sleep.
Yeah.
And you distract by drinking or eating or whatever.
Or playing on your phone.
Sure. So one of the best things you can do is, in my opinion, is journal. Right? But not just like write out your day. We were talking about this earlier. Yep. Basically, write out what you're feeling. I've actually thought about coming out with basically my version of a prompted journal for people who struggle with this, where it's like, make a list of everything you feel. I feel sad. I feel anxious. I feel hopeless. I feel confused. Well, why do you feel like that? I don't know why I feel like that. And then just rant. To give you an idea,
like a fitness one would be.
I did this
legit.
What's crazy? I did this to my nephew. So one of my nephews is a really crazy little fella. He's a great kid. He's little. He's only like 5, but he gets really anxious and reactive and has a temper and like gets in this chaotic state. Well, one thing. So we were at lunch, and he was being a little fucking shit, causing issues inside the restaurant. And like this restaurant was right by a lake, and he was just throwing a temper tantrum. So we had what I call an Uncle Jared moment. So I told him, I said, hey buddy, let's go outside. Not like ripped him up like he's in trouble, but he wasn't getting any better. Things were progressively getting worse. And I said, let's go outside. And he's like, fine. And he's being a little shit. We walk outside, and I know there's a lake nearby, like right on the lake. This restaurant was. And we went there, and I go, buddy, what's wrong? What are you feeling? And he's like, I don't know. And he's like mad. He's just like, just being a little kid. But little kids need to be seen, heard, and felt. Like adults need to be seen, heard, and felt. But he's 5. How can I get a 5-year-old to talk about his feelings? So there were some rocks. So I grabbed a handful of rocks, and I said, okay, buddy, you want to throw the rocks in the lake? What 5-year-old boy doesn't want to throw rocks in the lake?
I'll throw rocks in the lake.
Right. So let's make this a teaching moment. And I said, okay, buddy, you want to throw rocks in the lake? Yeah. I go, I want you to name the rock, whatever you're feeling. He goes, I don't know. I said, come on. I said, what do you feel right now? And then you can name one and throw it. And he grabs a rock and looks at it and he goes, mad, and throws it. And I go, awesome. Let's do another one. Kid's fucking 5. He grabs another one. He goes, confused. Awesome, buddy. What else you got? And he goes,
interesting.
And he goes, I don't know. And I said, I'm sorry. I think he may have it was like overwhelmed or something. And I go, what else, buddy? And he goes, I don't know. And I go, so confused? Yeah. We did that 5 or 10 times. His state changed immediately. Literally within 30, like probably within like a minute and a half, he was a different kid. Because I didn't just scold him. I didn't just like, hey, we don't act like that. I go, buddy, what are you feeling? And I changed his physiology. I grounded him, gave him something else to to get out of the chaotic state of the restaurant. But then I let him feel and talk about it in a 5-year-old way. And he felt 1,000 times better, literally within 2 minutes.
Of course. No, that's beautiful. I love that story, actually. Well, okay. No, I love that, man. I love that. I really do. We're at what, 109 here?
Sorry, David.
No, we're good. What I'm wondering, so you just brought up that story. I'm wondering real quick, since you brought that up, I also know, and you don't have to talk about this if you don't want to, but I'm pretty sure that you do not want to have children.
Yes.
Okay.
As of right now, they're probably
as of right now, and that's fine. Okay. And if you're comfortable talking about it, after telling that story, it's like, why? I feel like you would be, I feel like you would have, well, I don't mean to sound like with children being like a project, you know what I'm saying? But as far as raising a child, I feel like you'd be pretty good at it. So it's just like, why? Ooh, I want to hear why not. And I'm also just interested in it, as a friend. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I have no problem. It's one of those things that I find the more that I talk about, and we can wrap it up with this.
I don't more of just me and like my own thoughts and desires or lack thereof. I just think it helps because it helps people resonate and really relatable.
Well, sometimes people don't want kids. I have a best friend who doesn't at this point doesn't want kids.
So as of right now, so one thing my wife and I have always, like, from the day we got married, because as soon as you get married, it's like, when are you having kids? Whatever.
Stop asking that.
Yeah, stop asking that, assholes.
Go ahead.
Except for Matt on the podcast, because then it's okay. No, to be honest, there's a difference between like good friends having this conversation versus like fucking people that you don't even know their
middle name. And I have
name.
zero judgment. I'm not asking this to judge your answer. I'm asking this out of curiosity.
And to be honest, I don't like it's okay. It's interesting. I'm a fan of judgment. It's how we make decisions. It's how we have conversation.
Sure.
Usually when people get upset about the word judging, it's the condemning part. It's where there's like, oh, I don't agree with that, versus like it's how we make decisions, right?
Right.
But to answer your question, so my wife and I, when we got married, our anniversary was yesterday, so we've been married 7 years, together 12, or I'm sorry, almost 13. And we gave the normal answer, probably 3 to 5 years down the road, whatever. We got married, I was 20, or she was 19 and I was 22. Wow. Something like that. We were math, let's see, I'm 29. Yeah, 7 years ago, yeah.
It's young.
Yeah,
you guys were young.
Yeah, but also we were already together like 8 years.
Sure.
So it's not like it was an overnight thing or whatever, but like we were kids. I look at our wedding pictures, dude. We were fucking babies.
Yeah, sure.
Part of me is like, who let us get married? Now, I don't regret it at all by any means, but it's like, what did we know? Like, we're fucking babies.
That's
but
great.
Anyway, and to give context, like my marriage is the best relationship I know. Like it's better today than it's ever been. And so with the kids thing, we're just like, we figured we wanted kids at some point, like, because that's what societally you're supposed to do. Not because we wanted necessarily them. It's like, oh yeah, we probably should. But then like, what's interesting is the more time got on, like it'd be, let's say 3 years down the road, we're still, 3 to 5 years down the road. Like that. And then
let's keep kicking the can down the road.
6 years go by, 3 to 5 years down the road. And it's like, the longer time goes on, I couldn't tell you why. The desire isn't there. Because here's the interesting thing. I know I'd be a fucking amazing dad.
Sure.
But here's the other thing. Like, this is going to sound so egotistical. I feel like anything I aim at, anything that I would aim at that I would love doing, I'm going to fucking kill at.
Yeah.
Right? It's why, like, I love my business, so I crush. Mm-hmm. I love my clients. My clients crush. I love my friends like you, and our relationship grows and crushes. Anything that I have a desire towards, we put effort into and crush with. And so, I absolutely think I'd be an amazing dad. And I know my wife would be an amazing mom. But as weird as it sounds, there's just no desire.
Yeah,
like,
right. And that's a perfectly fine answer.
Like, let me ask you this. This is how I flip this around. Why don't, assuming money would not be the reason, would you adopt a child right now?
No.
Why?
Because there's other things that I still want to accomplish before I think having a child sounds right for me at this moment.
Also, exactly. But also, do you particularly want one right now?
No.
Like, is the desire there?
No.
So, from a desire standpoint, from a feeling of preparedness standpoint, and from a everything else in movement standpoint, it's just probably not in the cards this moment. So even adopting a kid is fucking expensive, but like, let's say money wasn't an issue. It's like things just right now aren't in a conducive place for it. And I get it. Like, you're never ready, what everyone says, but like, it's the same thing. There's just like, we just don't want one.
Sure.
I can also tell you, like, how to put it. I know so many people who have kids who regret having their kids. The amount of people I know who, like, it's funny. Everyone's going to be, oh no, I love my kid. Oh, I know you love your kid. So why don't you have another one? Mm-hmm. Oh no, no, one's good for me. No, why? Why not another one? Why not a fucking Brady Bunch? Why not like a football team?
Right.
It's or someone, let's say, has two. I'm like, well, you should have kids. Well, why don't you have another one? Oh, you don't want one. Oh, you don't want to have, because it's a lot of all these other things. It's the same kind of thing.
Sure. Okay. You know? I see what you're saying.
And it's like, it blows me away how many people like don't think about this. They just like, oh yeah, I had it. Whoops, my bad. And it's like, don't get me wrong. I think it's great when people, like, if they have them, if they want them and all these things. But I think it blows me away how many people, like, I would argue are irresponsible, then can't fucking raise it. And I know this is a very triggering, controversial topic, but I just know that it's right now, there's just not really a desire to have one. Part of my brain is like, I wouldn't want to have one in the right now where things are at in the world, or that's being very cynical or being very pessimistic. But there's just like, I just know for me to raise a kid right, there, you have to do it right. There's no half-ass raising a kid. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's just the really blunt, not so sexy answer is like, there's just no desire.
Yeah. I know. And
it's why it's like, I know this is going to sound weird comparing. It's like, why don't I get a gerbil? I just don't want one.
Yeah. You know
what I mean?
Fair.
I'm not. I
think you're right. It just goes back to the societal expectations of, you're this age. Yeah. You have a wife. You've been together this long. The next step. Sure. You have a house. You have a job. You have a successful career. Right. Et cetera, et cetera. Now the next step is having a child.
But now here's the crazy thing though. Fuck, I don't want to lose it. I almost lost it.
You're good.
It's one of those things too where, I think because over the past, let's say, couple years, 3 years, 2 years, my wife and I have done so much inner work on ourselves. It's funny. The more work we do on ourselves, the less we want kids. So I was actually talking to my therapist about this, and she agrees. I'm convinced so many people have kids because it's another way of just suppressing their own shit. Right? Think about why people emotionally eat, to suppress emotions. Why people do distractions, why they drink too much, why they overeat too much, why they do all these things. It's to distract.
It's the ultimate distraction.
Here, think of it this way. Also, why I have a personal belief. My therapist doesn't disagree with me. I haven't looked at data. A very common divorce age is as soon as the kid leaves. Very common divorce age.
Okay.
How many people lose their identity in their kids? So instead of them, think about like in relationships, codependency, right? They're my everything. They complete me. No. They make me so happy. No. You're responsible for you. You need to be standalone on you. Yes, you're in a relationship, but your happiness, your everything, your issues is all on you, right? We all know codependency kills relationships. I see people, like if I lost my identity in Shelby or Shelby lost her identity in me, our relationship would fail, right? Because you're abandoning who you are and your identity. Back to the identity conversation. I see so many people lose themselves in their kids. And don't get me wrong, kids are great. They need to be they need to be like your responsibility and loved and cared for and all that stuff. But when you go from Sarah to mom or from Jared to dad, like how many people do you see have kids and they lose their entire identity? They are no longer themselves that might have kids, that are friends, that do this. They're like, no, I'm dad, or oh, I'm mom. And they lose their entire identity of who they are as a person. Because of the child. And then the kid's gone, so did the identity. And then why do you think people get divorced? Why do you think midlife crises happen?
Or they become helicopter parents and they try and protect their kids and everything like that. Because they don't want them to do anything, go get hurt or go far away or whatever.
And like it's one of those things. And I'm not saying this is not a reason to not have kids, but it's funny. The more I've worked on myself, the more my wife has worked on herself. And as singular people have like grown and improved and things like that, the less desire to procreate.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. And that may just be us, right? I know people who do all this inner work and they want to have a kid more than ever.
Sure.
But here's the thing. I would argue now you have a foundation to have a kid. How many people, I know, I couldn't tell you how many, have a kid to fix they're like, oh, our marriage is shit. Let's make a baby. And then they wonder why then the kid suffers and the marriage suffers, right? Because you're distracting from the problem.
Have you ever discussed with somebody, not like a, one of your parents or just like a family friend or something like that, but somebody maybe that you more so look up to or something like that has had a child? Because here's the thing. I don't know because I don't have a child. I can't give context on that. And of course I would never try and say you're wrong or you're wrong for feeling a certain way or anything like that. But I'm wondering if you've ever had an experience, like talk with somebody else who has had a child who's had a very positive experience and they've still been able to do other things. And because you hear a lot of stories of it being a transformative experience. It's like my life completely flipped on its head whenever that child came to be. It's like I don't know if you talk to anybody.
Oh, without a doubt.
That.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I've seen both sides of it. I've seen people who are like, no, me having my kid has been the best thing that ever happened to me. But I know some people who are like, hey, I wouldn't get rid of them, but I would not have had them if I had the choice.
Sure.
Right. I've seen both sides of it. But here's my thing. And I'm not saying either's. Let's neutralize the whole thing. Neither is right or wrong. Because I've also been told one of the best examples I've ever heard. Someone describing they go, oh, when it's yours, it's different. Oh, it's you don't know it until you have it. I get that, but I also know people who regret having their kids or just don't care, don't like their kids. But someone saying trying to describe being a parent to someone who has never had a kid is like describing color to a person that's been born blind.
Oh yeah,
it's that's really good. That's really good. That's good.
Yes.
And I get that. I could totally see it that way, right? And then part of my brain is like, if I'm this crazy about my dogs, if I fucking made a human, you know what I mean? Like,
sure.
But that's the thing is, I would take it as if we decide to have kids as a massive responsibility. I think people have kids way too.
It's reactive.
Way too fuck it.
It's reactive,
right? Because it's not an 18-year commitment. It's a lifelong.
Oh, that's forever.
Like, what if your kid grows up to be a serial killer? Like, that's a fucking big deal.
Sure.
And that's not just, that sounds really pessimistic or really negative, but part of this too is how to word it. Part of this too is like if I said, oh, hey, I went out and bought I just went out and bought a $10,000 stereo system. kind of fuck it. I don't really care about it. I just bought it. That would be considered a bad decision. Or if I couldn't decide, hey, I can't tell if I like this car or not, but I'm going to buy it. That's not a good idea, but people do that with kids. So for me, here's my thing. My wife and I had a really good conversation about this recently where we can't tell. We can't tell if we actually want kids or if it's the societal expectation. That is not grounds to create a life.
Yeah, I would say that's
if
absolutely fair.
I said, hey, I can't tell if I like my car, if I want this car, you'd probably say, well, sit on it. Quit rushing. Why are you trying to buy it right now? I just bought a car because I fucking loved it.
Or it's the Derek Sivers. It's a hell yeah or no.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
But right now,
it's a hell yeah
if you can't tell, hey, I can't tell if I'm into this girl or not, or this guy or not. It's like maybe you shouldn't be trying to make a decision right now.
A kid's not something to fuck around with.
Absolutely. So
I'm glad you take it serious, and I think I'm sure that you've thought about this. Yeah, immensely.
I get fucking hell for this. I've told this to people,
and I think that's crazy.
And they act like I kicked their dog in front of them.
Yeah, no, that's on them. That's on them. They kick their own dog or their child. Anyway, so we're gonna wrap it up here. That's why I knew that would facilitate some type of good conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And most people that I talk to, typically they are like, I'm gonna have kids, whatever. And so I always do get interested from somebody who is as reflective and introspective as you are, and I want to hear that response because I absolutely do want to have children one day, and I'm excited for that. But right, like I said, one day. So it's just like you said, right now I don't, and I absolutely respect that. So. We're at 123 right now.
This is a long one.
This is a good one. This is good. I knew that typically whenever I do these in-person podcasts, it's around about the 90-minute mark.
Yeah.
So this is about right. But I figured we would touch on quite a few things. We've finished our bourbon. We've got about a half a cigar. Maybe we'll wrap this up and then we'll just chill here and chat a little bit and smoke these cigars and drink a little bit more and hang out. But Jared, this has been This has been wonderful.
This is good, man.
Yeah.
In person, so much better than
in person. Fucking rocks.
Yeah.
It's so cool. It's so much more intimate and so much more real. And after you get going and you're just like,
we didn't have notes.
No. No. I was like, should we figure out what we're going to talk about? And you were like, probably not. Nope. We should just go. Yeah. And that's what we did. That's what we did. All right. I guess we should do the normal stuff. Where can people find you if they don't know where you are?
You can go to my website, hamiltontrained.com, or I hang out most of the time on Instagram and TikTok at Real Jared Hamilton on both of them. My podcast is the Hamilton Trained Podcast. You can find a handful of episodes with Matt over there, and we'll probably be doing another one here soon.
Beautiful.
I wish I brought all my shit because we should do one.
No, it's all good. We've done. This is probably what, our fourth one,
third or fourth,
third or fourth.
Enough where like we can't keep track, and that's a good thing.
We got a couple. So, and then every single one is similar to this, but yeah, definitely go back, check those out. Yeah, and we'll wrap this up. Jared, thanks for coming on, dude. Hopefully we'll do it again soon.
I love it.